When you see a car driving down the road at night in any movie, the asphalt will always be wet, as if it had just rained. All filmmakers know and use this trick. The light of streetlights, traffic lights, and shop windows is much better reflected from the wet road. Thanks to this, the picture looks more effective. Supermarket shopping carts look simple, but they actually hide a lot of secrets and pitfalls. As a rule, they shake a lot and make unpleasant rattling noises, and it's not because the carts are old. Even new carts will shake and rattle when you drive them across the tile floor of the supermarket. You become uncomfortable going fast, and to get rid of the unpleasant sounds, you slow down. As a consequence, you look more closely at the shelves of products and buy more. You've probably seen piggy banks with a slot for coins many times, but you've probably never wondered why piggy banks are made in the form of pigs and not any other animals. A long time ago in England, clay pots were used to store coins. They were made of red clay, which in English was called pygg. You may remember that pig in English is also pig. It is pronounced almost identically, but spelled differently. Because of this, over time, piggy banks were mostly made in the form of pigs. Small holes are made in absolutely all crackers without exception. The logical conclusion is that this is not for decoration, it is the way to get extra air out of the dough during cooking. Otherwise, the cookies won't be as thin and crispy. By the way, the holes in the crackers used to be made by hand, but today it is done automatically. Bottles of carbonated beverages always have no refill. There is an empty space at the top of the bottle, but this is not because the manufacturers are greedy and trying to save money. The fact is that soda contains carbon dioxide, which is what fills the regular liquid with bubbles. The liquid always rises up a little when you open it, and the empty space protects you from being splashed with sweet liquid. Of course, this space is not enough if you have shaken the bottle well before opening it. Have you noticed that most airplanes are white? But why? Because theoretically they could be painted any way they want. There are several reasons for this. White reflects the sun's rays better, so the airplane heats up less in the sky, and white is also easier to spot cracks and other damage to the board during inspection by technicians. One of the main questions many people who drink Coca-Cola ask is, does the drink taste different depending on the packaging? Many people believe that Coke tastes better in a glass bottle than in an aluminum can, and that it tastes better in a can than in a plastic bottle. The correct answer is that it does taste different, but not because there are different drinks in different packages. In fact, all the bottles are filled with soda made according to the same recipe, but the human brain is much more complex. The final taste and perception of the drink is influenced by what we feel in our hand. Glass is a nicer material than aluminum, plus the glass keeps the drink colder longer, so many people end up with the impression that the glass tastes better, even though the Coke itself is the same. But what really differs is the taste of Coca-Cola in different countries of the world. For example, in the US they use corn syrup to make Coca-Cola, while in Russia they use sucrose. In terms of chemistry, there is practically no difference, but of course the realist fans of the drink will be able to feel it. There is always a projector room behind the back rows of the theater. Most people assume that a person sits there and controls the screening process, but that's not true. The days when films were shown on film are over. Indeed, in the past there was always a projectionist sitting in the projector room, keeping an eye on the process. For example, if the film was torn, he could glue it back on immediately and the screening would continue. Those who are older remember such moments, as they happened quite often. Today cinemas use digital technology. Everything is programmed and, if anything, regulated by specialists who are not in the room with the projector. The most harmful drink in fast food is neither cola nor coffee, but milkshakes. Milkshakes have always been an integral part of the fast food menu. In the very first McDonald's in America, there were only 9 items on the menu, and one of them was filled with milkshakes. Today, however, milkshakes may be the most unhealthy drink on the fast food menu, since, for example, a large milkshake at McDonald's contains 500 calories and, most importantly, 80 grams of sugar. The World Health Organization strongly recommends that adults not consume more than 50 grams of sugar per day. This means that if you drink one large milkshake, you are exceeding your daily allowance of sugar by almost 2 times. The logical solution would be to take a small milkshake, but even the smallest portion of shakes has more than 40 grams of sugar, which is the daily rate. And that's just one little drink. So think twice before getting a mixtape. Both adults and children love the animated films of the studio Pixar, but few know what this table lamp is bouncing on the screensaver before the start of the film. In the year 1986, a 2-minute cartoon called Lux Jr. came out. It's a little story about a big table lamp and a little table lamp, one of which jumps on a ball. Today this cartoon does not look like something outstanding, but for the mid-80s it was a real breakthrough in the field of computer animation. At that time, all animation was two-dimensional and drawn by hand. For the young company Pixar, it was the first work that perfectly demonstrated the potential of new technology in the production of cartoons. Since then, Pixar has become one of the world's most famous animation studios. And the character of this cartoon became the symbol of the company. By the way, you can easily find the cartoon itself at YouTube and watch it. Toblerone, the chocolate is very tasty. Perhaps its only disadvantage is that it is not the lowest price, but you have definitely seen the famous logo with the mountain. But not everyone knows the secret that is encrypted on this logo. If you look closely, you can see the silhouette of a bear in the image of the mountain. The mountain on the logo is the famous Matterhorn in Switzerland. It is known for having an interesting shape of a tetrahedral pyramid. The chocolate Toblerone itself resembles a mountain in its shape. And the bear on the logo is no accident either. Toblerone was invented by Theodor Tobler in the early 20th century. The case took place in the Swiss capital, Bern. There is a bear on the coat of arms of this city. Don't forget to give it a like, if you like chocolates. Even if you haven't seen the Simpsons cartoon series, you can't help but know what its characters look like. They are all bright yellow. But why yellow? The creator of the series said that initially he wanted the characters to stand out strongly, because The Simpsons began to appear on television in the late 80s. At that time, the average viewer, switching channels, paid attention to something bright and unusual. It is clear that the color of the characters is not the only secret of the success of The Simpsons, but definitely one of them. By the way, the creators of The Simpsons are not the only ones who decided to use the bright color of the characters as bait. SpongeBob, the Minions, Pikachu exactly yellow. Emoji with the underlined number, 100, we often use when we agree with the interlocutor 100%. But in fact, there is a hidden meaning in this sign, which is well known to the inhabitants of Japan, because this country is the birthplace of emoji. In Japanese schools, 100 is the highest mark. You can often see the red number 100 underlined twice in Japanese notebooks. Coffee lids look very simple, but they hide many secrets. One of them is a small hole. I don't mean the one through which you drink your drink, but a little hole in the middle or top of the lid, as if someone had made a piercing with a needle. Remember what happens to a plastic bottle when you try to drink all the water in one gulp? It starts to deform. This happens because of the vacuum. It would be the same with a coffee cup, but thanks to the small opening, air can circulate, the coffee pours evenly, and the cup doesn't deform. I don't think many of you have played golf at least once in your life, but you have probably seen in movies or TV shows what a golf ball looks like. The interesting thing about it is the little hollows that cover the entire surface of the ball. It turns out that thanks to them, the aerodynamic properties of the ball are significantly improved. Simply put, it flies much farther because there is less air resistance. If there were no notches, the ball would fly half as far, even if you hit it with the same force. Hopefully you have never used oxygen masks on an airplane for their intended purpose, but in the movies we see them used frequently, plus flight attendants demonstrate this detail before the flight. The most amazing thing is that there is no oxygen in the oxygen masks, at least not in the literal sense of the word. Carrying many oxygen tanks on board would be problematic, so engineers solved this problem in the following way. When masks fall out during an emergency and passengers put them on their heads, a chemical reaction occurs. Special substances are under the seats and interact with each other to produce oxygen. The supply of these substances is enough for about 15-20 minutes. Don't worry, this is enough time for the pilots to bring the plane to an altitude where you can already breathe the normal oxygen that is overboard. It is difficult to find clocks or windows in a supermarket or shopping mall. The author of this secret is Victor Grund. It was he who designed the first shopping malls in the United States. The main goal of a large mall is to disconnect the customer from reality. You come to a mall with a specific goal in mind. But ice cream stands, fountains, lots of stores, cafes, rest areas force you to stay longer and spend more, and lest at one point you get caught up, you won't encounter clocks or big windows. Suddenly a person notices that it is getting late, or that he has spent 2 hours at the mall instead of the planned 20 minutes. Many fast food chains sell another product instead of ice cream. Under US law, only products with at least 10% milk fat content can be called ice cream, and in most fast food chains that percentage is just less. So when you walk into any fast food place in the US, like McDonald's, you won't find that familiar ice cream. Restaurants have long since learned to get around this legal requirement and call ice cream soft serve, which translates to cold serve. But other countries have different laws, so in our fast food restaurants the cones McFlurry and other items are called ice cream. Anyway, if you want real ice cream, fast food chains are not the place to look for it. Although the famous pasta Nutella is associated with chocolate, there is practically no chocolate itself. Cocoa beans make up only 4% of the total composition. More than 50% of what is in the jar is sugar, 23% is palm oil, and 13% is hazelnut. By the way, the use of hazelnuts in pasta Nutella began quite by accident. After World War II there was a shortage of chocolate in Europe, so hazelnuts were added to Nutella. The pasta was made in Italy, where this nut was plentiful. But it was the nutty version of the pasta that became so popular that right up until today, there are several times more nuts in the pasta than cocoa. By the way, the sugar content inside differs from country to country. For example, in Italy pasta is sweeter than in France. Have you noticed that many cartoon characters only have 4 fingers? For example, Mickey Mouse and other classic Disney cartoon characters. Why only 4? First, it greatly simplified the life of animators, when all cartoons were drawn by hand. After all, each frame had to be drawn, and in 1 second of time, 24 frames. Imagine how difficult this work is. Drawing a hand with 4 fingers is much easier, and Walt Disney himself thought that 5 fingers was too many. The character's hand looks like dangling bananas. This number of fingers distinguished cartoon characters from humans, which was a plus. It made them look unusual. Over time, cartoons are no longer drawn by hand, now it is done on a computer, but despite this, the tradition of depicting characters with 4 fingers still remains. For example, the characters of The Simpsons, Family Guy, and South Park have only 4 fingers on each hand. By the way, another striking difference in the hands of Disney characters is the presence of white gloves, Mickey Mouse, Goofy, Pinocchio and others. In this case, there are several reasons, one of them is to save time. Drawing gloves is much easier than realistic hands of animal characters, and the white gloves are due to the fact that animation in the first half of the 20th century was black and white, and against the background of the dark body, which the characters often had, the hands in white gloves stood out well. After all, gestures are an important detail of every character. Soft sneakers are known for the special design with a rubber white sock, but few people know the hidden meaning of this phenomenon. Soft sneakers were invented for basketball players. The rubber sock was made hard to protect players' toes from injury. Over time, basketball players began to play in sneakers, and soft sneakers turned into an everyday shoe option. And today the rubber sock is just a decoration. Almost every day when you look at the sky, you may see clouds or clouds, but have you ever wondered why clouds are white and clouds are black? Experts don't use the word cloud at all. It's not a scientific name. Scientists use the terms white or gray clouds. White clouds are fairly scattered and contain small amounts of water droplets or ice crystals. Therefore, they let in sunlight and appear bright, while gray clouds, on the contrary, do not let in light because they contain water droplets, so they look dark. For most of us, spam is junk mail on email, social media, or messengers. But if you type the word spam into Google in English, you will see a huge number of pictures of ham. Indeed, unnecessary advertising messages got their name from an American brand of canned ham. Spam stands for spiced ham. This ham was actively eaten by the US military and was also supplied to Britain, which had great food problems after the war. Over several decades, this ham has become so boring to the British that since the 70s, 80s the word spam began to mean something superfluous and unnecessary, and with the advent of the internet, the concept of spam has become actively entrenched in our consciousness. From the portholes in the airplane, where the best view of the wings can be seen, you can see that there are small protruding yellow hooks on the surface of the wings. However, the wing should be smooth to minimize resistance to the air. Those hooks must be very important, and they really are. In an emergency landing, for example on water, passengers leave the cabin through the emergency exits, which are located just above the wing. The surface of the wing is very slippery, so a rope is pulled through these hooks and the passengers, holding on to it, walk across the wing and are thus evacuated. Kinder Surprise was one of the main attributes of childhood for many people, in every country of the world except the USA. Here Kinder Surprise is illegal. You heard right, not only can you not buy the coveted chocolate egg and toy in America, you can even be fined for trying to import this sweet from abroad, and the fine is several $1,000s. Especially people from neighboring countries, Canada and Mexico, who want to bring it for their friends and relatives to the United States are often affected. What is the reason? Why is harmless sweetness illegal? It's all about the law that was passed in the US back in the 30s. It prohibits the sale of chocolate that contains inedible parts inside, and that's the whole point of Kinder Surprise. It is true that the chocolate egg Kinder was not invented until the late 60s, but in spite of this, it was subject to the law. In the year 2018, the company Ferrero, which owns the brand Kinder, figured out how to get around this law and began to sell eggs in the US market Kinder Joy. They also contain a toy, but since it is on the outside of the egg, the law is not formally violated. In any case, if you are traveling to the United States, do not take the classic Kinder Surprise with you. Storage boxes in supermarkets are not primarily for protection against potential thieves. Just if you have a heavy bag in your hands, you will spend less time in the store, take fewer items and, as a consequence, leave less money. So for your convenience, the owners put in storage boxes. You will be more comfortable walking between shelves with food, and the owners will get more profit. Don't forget to give a like if you were interested in this video, as well as subscribe to the channel. Click on the bell to always be informed of new videos, and leave your comments under this video.